Hey everyone, it's Jason with Gateway Performance Suspension and Gateway Classic Mustang. Hey, today we're going to talk about our strut kit that we have available for the vintage Ford unibody cars. So you like your Mavericks, your Comets, your Falcons, Mustang, Torinos, those types of cars. This is what the strut box it will look like and come in. Go ahead and open this up so you can kind of see how it's packed up. When we do ship these, they are stapled, not just taped, but inside the box we use the packing foam to make sure that the strut is secured and can try to stop it from being damaged when it is shipped out. So basically all this stuff comes off. As you can see, it's in there really well. So you get your strut, your dyno sheet that comes with it. When JRI builds these struts for us, it's a private labeled system that they do. It's our strut design. They then pack it, build all the good stuff on the inside. They dyno them, they send them back to us. You get a hardware kit and you get spreader plates that go on the top of it. That is all inside this box. This box here is what your spindles come in. So again, it's going to be boxed like this, nailed down with staples. Then we foam pack them as well. It's going to come out, and this is what you'll see with it. So with the spindles, we're going to kind of start there today, talking about why we use what we use. Explain everything. We're going to start with the old spindle. So if you see the old spindle, right out here is where your little bearing ran, and then out in here is where the bigger bearing ran. So you can see this is a little bitty spindle, or a little bearing that would ride here on this spindle. So that thing, when you're doing 70 miles an hour, man, it's zinging. It is going super fast because it's so little. The one on the inside isn't going as fast as the one out here, but it's still moving along pretty quick because of what the size of the spindle is. On our new spindles, we use a 94 to 04 Mustang hub. If you look at the inside of that bearing, it's a big hole where the spindle goes through. If you take this one and slide it in there, you can see what a difference it is. So we eliminate that, which makes it so the car's bearings are not getting wore out a lot quicker. The other great thing about this is it's a sealed bearing, it's packed, it's ready to go. You don't have to service this. If it starts to go bad, you take the cap off, you take the nut off, you replace this whole unit. Again, it's a 94 to 04 hub, so you can go to any parts store and pick it up. You don't have to special order or anything like that. It's all right here. The other cool thing that we do with this is your strut bolts up right here, and you can see on here where the strut is, the strut clamp and your mount here. This bolt right here, you can spin that in and out, and as you spin that in or out, it stands that strut up or lays it out more. This is where you adjust your camber. This makes it where it's super easy to adjust your camber. Then on your lower control arm that we don't have on the table here, but your lower control arm has your radius rod that runs from it to the front of the car. Lower control arm and that radius rod, you use your original stock stuff, or you can buy a new one. But on 66 and older, we actually make a threaded adjustable one, because on those cars it wasn't adjustable down there, they adjusted with the upper control arm. So with our radius rod that we have, and it's adjustable, that's how you set your caster. You make that bar go forward or back, which pulls your lower control arm forward or back to give you your caster that you need in your car. It's a lot easier to adjust your alignment with this setup than what the factory cars were. It's more towards the modern cars versus the old cars where you had to try to put shims in between the A-arm and the shock tower, or try to adjust that lower control arm underneath, and you're going a little bit and then you miss it, you go a little bit, you miss it. This makes it where you can get these adjustments done really easy, really quick. We do it at the racetrack. I've actually done it in between sessions within 20 minutes, change the alignment on our track car to be able to go out and make the next session, make the car handle a little bit better. So the best thing that I can say with our kit that makes it where it's easy for the everyday person to get this and bolt it in, it is 100% bolt in. So the up on the top mount where it's at, it's got 3 holes where your shock plate that bolts to the top of your shock tower would mount originally. These bolt holes are lined up with them. On a 67 to 70, you do have to go in and make a drill hole down through. There's a plate that kind of caught the cage bolt for that you have to drill. That's it. There's no other major work to that at all. Once you have that in, you connect your spindle down here to your stock lower control arm or your new one. We don't sell tubular control arms, and the reason why is in other countries you have to pass a DOT test. When you try to do a lower tubular control arm, they won't pass. In like Australia and New Zealand, they won't pass the DOT test because they break quicker than the stock stamped steel ones. So we don't do anything tubular on these cars at all because of that reason. We wanted to make sure that guys could buy it, put it on, and not have an issue in other countries as well. Once you have that bolted on, you're going to run these bolts here. That's your clamp bolt that's going to clamp, through the spindle, and then you tighten it up. As you can see, that hole there is slotted, which allows the spindle to be able to come in and out with this adjuster here. Now this is all mounted solid so it doesn't move, but that does allow this whole thing to move in and out as you're doing it. These go back in. We always run them front to rear. That way if anything happened on the car, if it was to come out, it's harder for it to go forward than backwards. So we always mount them going front to rear. It's easier to get the bolts and stuff out of it if you have to. We partnered with Bear, so every one of our kits come with a Bear brake caliper and rotor that bolt on through these 2 bolts. There's shims, there's everything you need from Bear. We're going to talk about that in another episode. But basically with this, it is a bolt-in, true upgrade. Eliminates your upper control arm, which is where all the stress comes on the shock towers. I know a lot of you guys, if you've been around these cars a lot, you'll see the shock towers twist. That is from heavy braking. You get on the brakes really hard, and the upper control arm wants to twist. When it tries to twist forward, it twists that shock tower because the car's still trying to go forward, the brake's trying to stop. So it twists all that stuff around, and this eliminates that. Along with that, if you're wanting to do a Coyote, a 4.6, a 5.8, John Kazi Boss 429, or 5.4, with this, partnered with our video we did last week with the notch shock tower kits, this allows you to get those notched back far enough that you can fit those engines in to these vintage cars and be able to run that kind of an engine in your car. So quick recap on everything that's all bolt in. We use JRI, which is a really high-end company on shocks and struts. We try to do stuff the best we can. So when we're working with these companies, we're trying to use the best product that we can. Even our springs, we're using hypercoil springs. This all makes the car handle better. We offer the struts in a single adjustable and a double adjustable. With the adjustability, what that lets you do is if you're cruising around town, you can soften them up, let the car ride a little smoother, just cruising to the car show or whatever. But if you go out and you're doing autocross or track day and you want the car to handle a little bit better, you can stiffen that car up through the valving adjustments. Up here at the top, there's these adjusters. This is a double adjustable, so you have 2 knobs. A single just has 1 knob. With those, you can make that car handle quite a bit better just by making small adjustments to it. And you might pick up a second or two on a road race course, which is a lot, just by making adjustments on your struts or your shocks when we get to that on the 3-link later on down the road. But these are truly ride height adjustable. They come with this little tool here, which is what you use to spin this up and down to set your coil spring where you want it at. You also use it to unlock your locking clamp here. And then this strut is able to be spun in and out of this lower tube here. I'm going to grab this other strut here to show that. So when you loosen that, this strut is able to be spun up or down. It's threaded in here. What that allows you to do is truly set your ride height. There's a lot of people out here that tell you, oh, just bring that coil spring down, let it come down lower, and then the car will sit lower. What that does is the amount of travel you have, this is a 4.5-inch travel shock shaft. When you drop that down, you eliminate how much travel you have in that shock. So we set it about halfway, about 2.5 inches, somewhere around in there is where we'll set it, including the bump stop. So you'll see that there'll only be a little bit of shaft sticking out there, but the bump stop moves quite a bit. It smushes real easy. So we set that about 2.5 inches, allows you to set that correctly. Once you get that with the weight of the car on it, then we adjust the bottom turn of the strut. I'll spin this up a little bit. We spin this down where you set your ride height down here. What that does is it changes the length of the strut. So it drops the car down or raises the car based on how far you spin this in or out. And it allows you to keep the right amount of travel in here. I don't know a lot of you guys, if you've ever been in a guy's car that did a lowering spring. Those cars have about 5 to 6 inches of travel. They do a lowering spring, and now it's down to, instead of having 2.5 inches of travel, it's down where it only has 1.5 inches of travel. And what they do to make sure that car don't bottom out all the time is they take that spring rate from somewhere around 400 to 500 pounds and they throw in a 600 or 700 pound spring in it, and it rides rough. It handles great, but it rides rough. You don't enjoy riding in the car because you're getting beat up all the time. With this setup, you get the best of both worlds. You can adjust your ride height down, get the car down really, really low, or and keep the shock where it needs to be in the half of that travel, so it's got room to come up and go down when you are driving the car. You can raise this to get the car to sit up a little bit higher if that's what you want. But still, the amount of travel between this on this strut stays the same. You always have 2.5 up, 2.5 down, depending on what travel shock your strut you're using. Hey everyone, now that we're done kind of talking about the struts and what they do, we kind of did want to bring this up that we offer a positive stop tie rod adjusters. What this is there's a left-handed thread, a right-handed thread, and your lock nuts. They're much easier to adjust. You don't have to worry about when you lock them down, clamp them down with the U-bolt clamp style, that it kind of spreads them out because they're not in the grooves. Much easier to adjust. The one thing that we do with our kits is they're designed so that they work with just the struts, will work with the steering on a stock car. We do everything modular because we realize that not everyone's got just all kinds of money and they can throw at their project all the time. But if they wanted to buy the struts, use their stock steering, get that paid off, get that down, and then say, hey, I'm going to add my steering now. I want to do the rack and pinion from you guys. You're able to do that. Everything works modular so that you can build your kit. Say you wanted to start with the steering first, you could do that. They also eliminate a lot of bump steer issues that these cars have with the struts. When you add the rack, it virtually takes all the bump steer out of the car at that point. So check us out on YouTube. Leave comments if you have, hey, I want to know about this. or hey, I got a question about this product that I saw on your website. Let us know what those are, so it kind of gives us some ideas of what videos you guys are wanting to see. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tell your friends about it. You know, hopefully we can start getting a lot more of you guys on our YouTube channel, which will help us know what you guys are working on, what you want to see, and what kind of questions you have about your Mustangs or your vintage Fords, including F100 trucks that we're doing a lot with. And get ready, because we're trying to start up our new F250 Highboy suspension parts. Be looking for that to come. Thank you, guys.